Hello everyone, my name is Martin, and I'm here to introduce you into the exciting world of computer programming using the Python programming language. Welcome, I'm so glad you could join me. So, exactly what is Python? Python is a fun, easy to learn, general purpose programming language used extensively in computer science, data science, and other major STEM fields. In fact, many companies such as Google, Instagram, Facebook, Dropbox, and Uber all use Python to power the code that works underneath their websites and apps. Cool, isn't it? So, are you ready to learn Python? Great. But before we begin, I must make a confession. I don't like snakes. And if you don't happen to like snakes either, I have some good news for you. The Python programming language was not named after a snake. In fact, Guru van Rossum, the creator and founder of Python, named it after the TV show Monty Python's Flying Circus. So don't worry, the Python language has nothing to do with snakes. Alright, now that we've got that aside, let's go ahead and install Python on your computer. First, let's open up a web browser and go to python.org. Now let's click on the Downloads tab. Now, I'm a Windows user, but if you're using a Mac or some other operating system, it should automatically recommend what to download. I'm going to download the recommended installer right here. Okay, after it finishes downloading, launch the installer. And please, please, please make sure you select Add Python to Python. So with that, I'm going to make sure it's selected and I'm going to click Install Now. Great, and now it finished installing. So I'm going to go ahead and close that. Great, now Python is installed on your computer. While there are many ways to use Python, we will be using IDLE to learn Python, which stands for the Integrated Development and Learning Environment, which some people like to call IDLE, but I like to say IDLE. Isn't it more fun to say? It rolls off the tongue. Alright, so let's go ahead and search for and open Python IDLE. Alright, so here is our IDLE. IDLE is a Python shell. A shell is basically a way of interacting with a program by typing and entering text. That's why you see Python shell in the title bar of this window. The first thing you might notice are the three arrows right here. That's a Python prompt. A prompt is what a program displays when it's waiting for you to type something. This prompt tells you that Python is ready for you to start giving it instructions. Let's give Python our first instruction. With the cursor at the end of the prompt, type print hello world. And then press enter. Look at that! Python printed hello world. Python did exactly what you told it. It printed your message. In programming, print often means to display text on the screen, rather than printing it on a piece of paper using your printer. That one line is an instruction to Python. You did it! You're on your way to programming. The computer is now under your control. By the way, when you first learn to program, there's a tradition that the first thing you do is display hello world. You're following that tradition. Welcome to the exciting world of programming. You might be wondering what all those colors mean. IDLE is trying to help you understand things a bit better. It's showing you things in different colors to help you tell the difference between parts of the code. Code is just another term for the instructions you give to a computer in a language like Python. What happens when I type this? Notice there's no purple color this time. Look at that! I got an error. The error message is telling me that I typed in something that Python didn't understand. In this example, print is misspelled prompt, and Python doesn't know what to do with that. If you ever encounter a message like this, check the spelling in your code. Alright, let's try another example. Print 5 plus 5. Look at that! So Python can do math. Computers are very good at doing math. But what about multiplication? In pretty much all computer programs and languages, the star, or asterisk, symbol is used for multiplication. It's the symbol above the number 8 on most keyboards. So let's go ahead and try that. Print 5 times 5. 25. That's correct. Let's try something harder. Look at that. Python was able to do that huge number. But let's try something even more harder. Print really big number times really big number. Let's see what happens. Wow, that's a really big number. I doubt most calculators can even do that. That's not all Python can do. Let's try this. Print cat plus dog. What are we going to get? Look at that. Cat dog. Here we added or concatenated two strings together to produce cat dog. Besides math, computers are really good at doing things over and over again. For example, why don't we try print pizza times 20? What do you think is going to happen when I do this? Pizza, 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 pizza. Look at that. It printed pizza 20 times. Isn't that cool? In programming, it's often helpful to put comments in your code to describe what it does. When Python sees these comments, it ignores them. In Python, everything after the hashtag, dare I say it, #, is a comment. For example, let's try, this is my first comment. Look at that. Python completely ignored it. Let's try one more example. Print, see this? But you can't see this. Comments are very useful in keeping your code organized and clear. Suppose you have a lot of code and you give it to me. Without comments, I would probably have a hard time figuring out what it was supposed to do. So far, the examples we looked at are single instructions to Python in interactive mode. Although it's great for checking out some of the things Python can do, these examples really aren't programs. After all, a program is a number of instructions collected together. So, are you ready to make your first program in Python? Let's do it! We could use any text editor like Notepad or TextEdit, but IDLE actually has one built in. So let's open a new file by clicking on File, New File, and notice a new window popped up and it's labeled Untitled. That's because we haven't saved it yet. Now let's type the following program into the editor. I'm going to start off with a comment. My first program. Print, I love pizza. Then print, pizza times 20. Print, yum times 40. Alright, and then let's finish it off. Print burp. Let's give it a nice long burp over there. When you're done, save this file by going to File, then Save. Let's call it pizza.py. You might want to create a new folder for saving all your Python programs. So pizza.py. Now the .py is very important at the end of this file name. The .py part tells your computer that this is a Python program and not just any old text file. So let's go ahead and click Save. Alright, are you ready to run your first program? To run it, click Run and then Run Module. Run and then Run Module. Look at that. The IDLE shell became active again, and it printed our program right in here. Isn't that cool? And if you're curious, I ran this program twice, so that's why I see a double output here. So what's this restart? The restart part tells us that we have started a running program. This is helpful when you're running programs over and over again to test them, like I did over here. Okay, so it doesn't do very much. But look, we got the computer to do what we told it to do. Our programs will get more interesting as we go along. What happens if there's an error in your program and it won't run? There are two different kinds of errors that can happen. Let's look at both kinds so you'll know what to do if either one happens to you. Let's go back to our window over here. IDLE checks your program before it even tries to run it. IDLE finds an error. It's usually a syntax error. Syntax is the spelling and grammar rules for a programming language. So a syntax error means that you've typed something that isn't proper Python code. Here's an example. Suppose I took out a quote right here. Now, obviously, you can tell this is wrong because the colors have changed. But let's see what happens when I save. And from now on, I'm going to do Control S to save me going through all this. I'm going to do Control S, and I'm going to run the program. And just to give you a hint, I can press F5 to automatically run the program. So what happens when I run it? Invalid syntax. IDLE's editor even highlighted the place where it found the error, in red. It might not be exactly where the problem is, but it should be close. And in this example, if I had put a quote here, it would correct it. The second kind of error that can happen is one that Python or IDLE can't detect before it runs the program. This kind of error only happens when the program runs, so it's called a runtime error. Here's an example of a runtime error in a program. Suppose, instead of multiplying yum by 40, I added 40 to yum. Now let's see what's going to happen. What happens if I go ahead and run it? So make sure I save it, then go ahead and run it. Look at that. So the program actually starts. The first two lines are printed, but then we get an error message. The line starting with traceback is the beginning of the error message. The next line tells you where the error happened, the file name, and the line number. Then it displays the bad line of code. This helps you find where the problem is in your code. The last part of the error message tells you what Python thinks is wrong. Once you know more about programming in Python, it'll be easier for you to understand what the message means. So why is the code here wrong? It's like comparing apples to oranges. I can add 5 plus 5, but how do I add a string to a number? You see, you can only add a string to a string, like in cat, dog, or a number to a number, but you can't add a string and a number. It just doesn't make sense. They're not the same type. So that's why it's an error. We'll cover this in another video. I'll give you one treat to try on your own. Here's the code to a simple number guessing game. Another tradition in programming is typing in code that you don't understand. So go ahead and type this code into a new file, save it, and run it. Don't worry if you don't understand it. We'll go over it in the next several videos. But here's how it looks when you run it. See if you can win this simple game. Alright, well I hope this video gave you a good introduction to the Python programming language. I will see you in the next video. Happy coding!